Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are going to be returning to Nantucket in, well, I guess if we're chopping this up into our video on demands, this is part 6 of my look at the brand new and upcoming strategy game, which follows the novel Moby Dick and puts you in charge of a whaling vessel as you attempt to comb the seas and get revenge against Moby Dick, and also hunt some whales in a period of time in the past, which I think we can all agree, or most of us would agree, that hunting whales today is certainly frowned upon for very good reasons, but back then it was an economic necessity for many of the economies around the world, whale oil providing key oils for lamps and other such goods. Today we're going to be returning to the series after a couple of failures at the end of the last stream, or at the end of the last episode, where we had been attempting to find the Rachel, which was the ship that saved our character, the sole survivor from the Pequod, the vessel in Moby Dick, and it was being attacked by sharks, and frankly our crew isn't good enough to withstand those attacks. So I'm actually going to go into the tavern here. We've got quite a bit of unused prestige here. We're using 11 prestige. We've got a 4-star hunter, a 4-star sailor, only a 3 prestige star craftsman. Our vessel can only hold 3 people in one whaleboat. We probably need a bigger vessel, to be honest, but I'm going to try and get through the mission with what I have. Let's take a look here. I'm kind of tempted to replace my craftsman with a medicine man, or whatever this would be. I'm not sure if it's worth it, but I like the idea of a scientist who's not really hunting focused here. This guy really has some interesting traits. Swimmer, he's also a sociable, but frankly, I'm going to go ahead and fire him. We lose prestige for firing him, but I'm going to do it anyway, because I want to go ahead and hire someone who has medicine traits, if you will. So this person, interesting enough, their skills lay in combat, despite being, well, no, they do have medical traits here. Okay, so they do have some traits here. I was looking at Jim down here, but they're medicine people. I'm not sure which one's better or worse. This guy has a trait of sociable, and that's it. So it looks like a positive trait. Let's go ahead and sign on Keo to join our crew. And we'll keep the other members of the crew the same so we don't lose too much prestige by firing people and things like that. So with 2 people in our crew who can heal each other, I guess the hope in the next fight is really to just withstand... oh, I guess... I don't know what that means. There's a little box here of people who I've fired in the past. I'm not sure if that means I can like easily rehire them or what, but we'll see. Anyway, we've got that new crew member. Leo has a quest to complete. Are you sure want to let him go? Yes. So we had a quest with Leo, the individual who we were firing, but obviously we won't be able to complete that quest now that he's gone. Okay, so let's go ahead. I've already re-equipped my vessel with quite a bit. 42 barrels of provisions, 17 of water, 9 of food, 6 of grog, and 10 of wood. Enough to get us through 200 days at sea for everything now that I just went ahead and purchased that bit of wood. Meanwhile, if we return to our vessel, you can see here we have a 1-star rotten sloop. We've upgraded several of its abilities, its harpoons, its telescopes, its shelving, its sails. We haven't upgraded its hammocks. It's almost a 2-star vessel, at which point it'll stop being a rotten vessel, I believe. But we don't quite have enough money to buy the next tier of ship. We could buy a cutter, frankly, which would be a little bit faster, have a little bit more durability, but still has the same limitation of a crew of 3, 1 whaleboat, and 70 cargo. Frankly, I don't think it's worth it. I'm going to save up to try and get a slightly larger vessel. Maybe a little bit slower, but more cargo, more crew, more whaleboats. That's my goal anyway. So we'll probably have to go through some more whaling seasons to do that. We had that one really lucrative humpback season a few episodes ago, but that's kind of where we're at now. So I'm going to go ahead and set sail with these new provisions. And we'll see if we can find the Rachel. Hopefully we're more well-suited for combat with sharks coming up here, but we'll see. Okay. For those of you wondering, by the way, this game comes out on January 18th on Steam. So we'll just go ahead and follow the Nantucket course here. No, we're not going to get all the way there, but you can see it's 114 days. It's quite a long voyage. So we can see here. Why aren't we following the path? There she blows! Okay, so apparently creature encounter. Prepare for the hunt. Well, I wasn't quite expecting that, but okay. Now we're going to go ahead and assign myself, our hunter, and our salesperson to the battle. Let's go ahead and do that. It looks like it's a blue whale, interestingly enough, and this is a 23 pound or 23 hit point whale. This is going to be the strongest whale that we've faced thus far. We'll go ahead and roll. We can't do anything to it because it dived, so it's below the surface, so that first combat really didn't matter. We'll go ahead and roll again, which again we can't do anything because it's still below the surface. So we'll just kind of continue. Apparently, even though it was below the surface, it could hit Jim, and it did, and stunned him. Roll again. We got a strike in on him. Took out about half of his health here. You can see this is kind of a board game style approach. We may have to go back to port after this, though, because I really can't afford to lose crew member health points at this point in the game here. Jim is not doing his job as a hunter here. You can see our character's taking some damage. I'm hoping we can still finish him off. I'm still stunned, apparently. All right, there's a nice strike. So the blue whale is almost dead here in round 5, and he's gone ahead and dove in below the sea. Dived. Can't do anything to him because he's below the sea. Come on, dude. Why am I doing this navigation thing, by the way? I should really just have him maybe get a clumsy strike. All right, there you go. So we got the blue whale. We'll see... wow, 20 blubber. We even fit that all in the holds? Yes, but only barely. All right, well, we just got a bunch of food and got some blubber. Our crew suffered, and we just discovered a blue whale hunting zone just outside of Honolulu, actually. We're going to return to Honolulu to empty our stores, though. I think it's actually... it's whale hunting season in the blue whale area, so maybe it will actually return. I kind of got... I like the idea of... All right, let's go ahead and first of all, we captured about... I think it was 10 food, or close to it. Go ahead and sell... Oh, shoot. I'm stupid. We already got the money. Ugh, I just wasted some money. Although I got it all back. Let's actually lower the amount of stuff we have in our holds. Just slightly. Just kind of messing around with money here at this point. Alright, so let's lower the amount of stuff we have in our holds. We're going to go ahead and fish the blue whales here while it is still blue whale season. We'll go back out here. Because we can only fit 20, you know, we don't have a very large vessel, so we're kind of limited in our ability to, you know, all we really can manage is one whale per hunt, which is not very efficient. Granted, it's really close to Honolulu, so, you know, swinging back and forth isn't going to really hurt us that much. But I'd like to be able to kind of get a couple of whales taken care of before we, you know, essentially have to turn around. Okay. We'll go ahead and roll. You can see a strike of 12. So this one started off a lot better. You can see all of our crew's health was improved. And this is a new whale type, by the way. We hadn't had a blue whale in previous iterations. But he's stunning and hurting our crew effectively again, once again. He hasn't dove. He hasn't dove yet, though. But apparently no one... Oh, there he goes. So apparently no one is... actually, let's do this. Since he's below the surface, let's go ahead... use his health points. See if we can roll some first... Wait, I want to let me roll first aid. Well, that's lame. Still not do it? Okay. So he's below the surface, but we can use first aid. Whoops. We can use first aid on our crew to get them back up to health, which will carry over into the next fight. Well, now that he just got hit again. Alright, well, there you go, I guess. Alright, so I should have actually... Alright, first aid again. Go get him back up. Jim is our most important three here. But he keeps getting attacked. But it's good to know that our character likes to roll first aid. And he's stunned now, so it's going to be hard for us to really do much against the whale. Go ahead and strike him, but the damage he's going to deal here on this next strike against Jim is going to exceed the first aid. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to change our character back over to hunting because we need it. And there you go. Finish him off. All right. So we killed the blue whale. The day is ours. We get another 20 blubber. And 10 food. Of which now we can only fit 8 more things in our hold. So it's kind of like, alright, well, if we hunted another one, we would end up not being able to bring everything back, so what's the point? And we're going back to port just because of that. Enter the harbor. And you can see here another successful, very short voyage. Another $293 for us, $60 for the crew. We'll go ahead and sell some of that food that we got from the whale. We got 10 food from it. So we'll go ahead and sell that, make a little bit of money. All of the food profits go to us. The blubber is split up amongst the crew, but all of the food goes to us. So go ahead and sail away again. This is going to get a little repetitive, I'm sure, but the extra money sure would be nice to be able to get a larger whaling boat. That's really the key thing you spend your money on is either your stores to keep your ship effectively at sea, or spend the money on your crew by, like, well, actually not really your crew, spend it more on your ship to kind of get a better one. Be interesting if there were other ways to spend your money, but right now those are really the principal ways of doing it. Alright, so we weren't finding anything there. Moving a little bit further south, I'm going to go ahead and hunt whales here again. The season goes until March 19th, so we've got about another month and a half until the whaling season ends. I don't want to bore you too much, so this may be our last duel here. Oh my goodness, there's 2 blue whales, but they're both newborns, so they should be easier to deal with. I don't know if that means they're going to have less in the way of damage that they can inflict. Yep, it does mean they'll have less damage, so you can see here they both only inflict 3 damage rather than 5, but now 2 of our 3 crew members are stunned. So we'll see how this works out here. Hopefully THG rolls something. You can see another stunning blow against Jim. You'd think maybe they would try and go after THG and stun my whole crew, but so far no. The good thing is 1 hit from my main character, THG. You can see the strike here will knock out one of those whales. So Jim should be okay here shortly. Jacob is stunned again, but that's going to allow Jim not to be stunned, so we're going to have our 2 best whalers in this roll. We should finish him off here. Hoping my internet dies again, Kushin, like yesterday. That's not very sporting of you. Alright, so we got 2 of them, and that gives us 20, what do you call it? 20 blubber, which is the same as 1 young one of them. So 20 blubber, 10 food. I guess we'll continue hunting here until we kind of fill up our stores a bit. We'll go ahead and play it again. Continue hunting. Alright, found another one. Now our health is going to be reduced, so I'm going to see about maybe bringing in myself, Jim, and Kira instead. Kira is a doctor, so he's going to focus on first aid. Alright, so no one rolled anything except him. He got first aid, which brings Jim back up to full health, which is awesome. Both of these are newborns, so they can only do 3 damage. You can see they're both stunning 2 of our 3 crew members, which, again, really minimizes our ability to hunt them, unless Jim gets a good roll here and gets a strike, which he did not. And they continue striking at the 2 crew members on the flank, so we really got to hope that Jim gets something here. He's okay, fastened. So this one's done for. That'll help even the odds a bit. They can only keep 1 of our crew members stunned. Protective rowing. It doesn't really make sense to have him flailing away for HP. Alright, well, I will consider that. Apparently my sailing man has some skills which would be useful in a combat. Now, I haven't put him into this particular battle, but I was using him on previous fights. Alright, so we can do 11 immediately like that. We don't have enough room in our ship. Water's actually pretty darn cheap, and we don't need much of it to get back to port, so we'll kind of go ahead and dump some of our water stores. Grog and wood are more expensive. Food, I think, is a little bit cheaper. But I'm hoping that 6 days is enough to get me back to port, because I just kind of gave up 11 food and 8 water to get our crew back to port. We got 4 days, so unless something bad happens, we should make it. Just barely. Enter harbor. And there you go. This was a pretty successful run again. $583 for me again, $119 for my crew. A new issue of the newspaper is available. Let's go ahead and buy some stores. Yep, the water was cheap. It's only $2 per barrel. So we'll go back. And I think we're going to just kind of head to the Rachel now. We've got more than enough food, so we're actually going to sell some of that. And more than enough of everything else. So we're up to $5,000. That means I think we could buy the next largest ship, but we'll wait till after we try and find the Rachel. You can see here, James Weddell's expedition to Antarctica reaches the most southerly position ever. German astronomer Olbers presents arguments against the idea of a static universe, and British Gothic writer Anne Radcliffe dies at 58 after an asthma attack. The objective of delivering goods to Koryeka. Kushin, I'm liking it a lot. I am a little worried that as the game goes on, it may get a little bit repetitive. It can be repetitive at times, and kind of the battles and whatnot. But I'm starting to uncover more types of whales, and some of these combats are starting to get a little bit more challenging. There's certainly more of a tactical element to the fighting than I've been using, as you can see, whether you want to use someone with first aid, someone with that rowing ability to prevent your crew from being stunned, or whether you really want to go more for the hunt. There's a lot of different ways that you can fight effectively. I haven't really begun to scratch the surface on that yet, but it certainly, I'm sure, is there. Okay, so we're going to set sail. We're not going to hunt the blue whales this time. We're going to go try and find the Rachel, which I know because of our previous videos, I know where it is. The Rachel's going to be located down here in this sort of unexplored region. And who knows, maybe we'll run across a blue whale since we are going to cross the, the hunting grounds. If we do, we will hunt it. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and just... Oh. No. So we just lost 1 water. Not too bad. Could have been worse. We're kind of going against the tide, or not against the tide, but we're sailing to leeward. So ship speed reduced 10%. Now, again, high winds and sailing with the winds to leeward, reduced speed of 25%. For a rather simplistic strategic map, this game does a really good job of modeling wind patterns. You can see all the trade winds or whatnot are marked on the maps here, as well as like icebergs and different. It's a really well done map. I think the aesthetics of the game are pretty clever and interesting. Okay. So we continue sailing here. I also like the way that the map opens up from sort of an old-timey, old paper look to a more clear color map as you uncover things. Skull and... Whoops. Let's see here. Oops. Okay. Skull and crossbones. Over here? I have no idea. That's a good question if there's pirates over here. Oh, it does say pirates. If you hover over the skull and crossbones, it does tell us that region is more replete with pirates. So I know we did run into pirates on more than one occasion in our last stream. So yes, if you're in these areas, you're more susceptible to running into pirates. Just like, these clouds represent a storm, or this, circle, essentially hurricane symbol represents perilous waters. All of these can trigger storyline events or just generic events which are related to those events. Ship ahoy! Your lookout yells, diverting your attention from your task. You walk on the main deck, immediately gazing upon your lookout. He leans out of the crow's nest, checking for your presence, and then stretches his arm out, pointing to larboard. You scan the horizon with your spyglass. The Rachel stands out against the horizon, half sunk. The foremast moves at the ocean's mercy, waving its sail like a white flag. Sharks indiscriminately tear off pieces of boards and corpses floating near the ship, where a few survivors try to fight them back. All right, we're going to go and lower the whaleboats to fight. We don't have any cannons, so we can't shoot shots into the sea to try and kill the sharks. We could drop some food barrels to try and reduce the number of, distract the sharks. I feel like it's way less than 50-50. Every time I've tried this, it has failed. So I'm just going to try and see if we can last for 10 rounds, which I believe is the standard if you don't try to distract them. Yep. So I'm just going to see if we can last for 10 rounds. Now, my main character has to be in this fight. It's required. We're going to go ahead and assign Kyo as well, and then we're going to assign Jim. So Kyo has slightly less hit points, but I'm actually assigning him because he's a medic. So the idea is to see if our 2 medics can really keep all of us alive long enough to last 10 rounds of combat. You can see here there's 3 enemy sharks. Oh, wow. There is an adult great white shark with 16 hit points. That's going to be a tricky one to overcome. I'm actually going to shift my character to combat, given no one has any damage yet. But this guy's going to do a lot of damage over here. We got to knock this guy out. The thing is, if you kill these sharks, more keep coming, but generally they're not going to be quite as strong as 16 hit points. I've never seen one that strong before. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can, cut this guy down to size. In fact, since no one has any damage yet, I'm going to assign everybody to combat. You can see here a strike of 13 for Jim against the Great White will really help bring it down to size. We should be able to kill it next turn because of bleeding. Actually, it's going to dive out of the fight. So not only did we do damage to it, but we also, it's not going to be, it doesn't attack this. And you can see the sharks are actually attacking us with bleeding, with biting us. And what killed us last time around was you lose 2 hit points every single time when you're bleeding. Both those times the sharks attacked, we did not suffer any bleeding. And I'm not sure if maybe Kyo, being a scientist, has an ability to prevent us from getting a bleeding trait. But in any event, it looks like he successfully, or we successfully resisted any sort of attack there. I'm going to go ahead and roll, since the only one that I really want to kill, I don't want to kill either of these 2 because they're the weakest shark possible. The only one I want to kill has Doven, and actually he's going to bleed to death anyway. So I'm just going to switch over to first aid and try and keep our guys all alive long enough, and there you go. We got 7 hit points for every character with that trait that I just pulled. You can see, so our scientist is preventing us from bleeding. This is going to help a lot. I'm really happy that I replaced my craftsman with a scientist who has the ability to prevent bleeding, frankly, because, and there you go, the great white shark just died, because, and now we've got another newborn, so I'm not going to attack any of these. These are the 3 weakest sharks possible, but this is going to be much easier to survive, given that we can't get hit with bleeding. And what that really is every turn that you have bleeding, you lose 2 hit points, no matter what, even if they don't attack your character. So by resisting this, Kyo has already saved our crew like 8 or 10 hit points from the enemy. So this should actually become pretty easy now that I've got 2 guys really focusing on first aid, and no bleeding to be worried about, and 3 of the weakest sharks out there. I just gotta keep giving first aid to my crew, keeping them all up at near full strength, and the enemy's gonna bite us, but it's basically a war of attrition that they can't win. They don't have enough rounds, I don't think. So I'm pretty optimistic at this point that we're gonna make it. We'll see. Okay. There we go. You can see I'm just really focusing my first aid on THG because THG is also the character that is me. THG is the captain. So if THG dies, then the game ends. It's your character, if you will. This is a role-playing game. So if you die, if your own character dies, and interestingly, you can heal yourself. You can kind of Stephen Martin yourself and perform surgery on yourself. The Aubrey Martin reference there. But that's kind of the most important, obviously, is making sure you stay alive. Because if you die, it doesn't matter if the rest of your crew survives. John, the game I'm playing? The game I'm playing is Nantucket. Are you talking about a different game? Okay. So, mathematically, we might be safe at this point. I suppose they could put all their efforts into trying to bite THG, and if we didn't roll a single first aid kit, then we might die. But overall, it seems like we're going to be okay here. I will say that in these longer battles, things can get a little bit repetitive, you know, when we're sort of in this cycle of, all right, heal, get bit, heal, get bit, heal, get bit. Again, things do tend to get a little bit repetitive. It's like, all right, I know I'm going to make it. Why do I have to really wait for all of this to kind of go through the motions? But still interesting. You can see different random combat conditions come up every round. So crew member damage is down 20% because there's adverse winds. So again, you get different kind of random traits that can pop up between rounds. But we're almost around 10, so the shark should leave us alone here very soon. Overall, Andy, I am enjoying it quite a bit, actually. It's a very different game. I never thought I'd be playing a video game about whaling, which again is sort of this controversial topic, if you will, something that I don't think most people would ever think they'd play a video game about whaling, and whaling is certainly dubious in of itself, but because of the historical context and because it's really following the novel Moby Dick, it's I think it's kind of interesting. All right, so we get some food from the sharks and move on in the story. So as the battle adrenaline rush dissolves, surrounded by shark carcasses and human corpses, you feel gutted. You look around desperately, looking for any sign of life. You noticed a man in the distance wearily fighting to stay afloat. Man overboard! Your men recover Rachel's sailors from the sea, bringing him to your ship. One of your men brings the sole survivor to you. Covered by a blanket, he is a young man as pale as a ghost, shaking because of the cold and shock of seeing his mates chewed by deadly jaws. You order your men to leave you alone with him. Hey, so it looks like we have two options here. We can ask directly, where is Captain Gardner? Is he dead? Or we can say, sit down, I'm assuming, kid. What's your name? Let's say, where's Captain Gardner? He looks confused. Sir, young sailor takes a deep breath, trying to steady himself. I'm sorry, sir. Gardner is not the Rachel's captain. He left command months ago. So Gardner is the captain of the Rachel. Just as a refresher for those of you who aren't familiar with Moby Dick, at the end of the novel Moby Dick, spoiler alert, this novel was written over 100 years ago, your character, who we're playing as, which is, I've named my character THG, but really it makes it pretty clear you're playing as, oh my goodness, is it Emmanuel? The main character in Moby Dick, the sole survivor of the vessel that's sunk by Moby Dick. You're saved by the Rachel, which is another whaling ship. And so obviously we're trying to hunt down the captain of the Rachel because the Rachel was just sunk by sharks. They left command months ago. The young man starts to panic, pressured by my rough manners. All I know is that he left command to avenge his son's death by chasing the white whale with a crew of cutthroats. Somebody heard it was heading toward Africa, but I really don't know, sir. Chasing the white whale, good to know. Moby Dick is the white whale, by the way. The young man starts to panic, pressured by my rough manners again.
I felt guilty for Rachel's destiny, as if it got rotten by my cursed presence on board. Maybe Ahab was just looking for more souls to rear his throne in hell.
Quest complete. Finding the Rachel. Oh, by the way, interesting comment. Apparently, one of the main historical accounts of whaling at sea in the 1800s was written, and I forgot his name now. Was written by a naval captain who observed whaling, and then he wrote basically to a post about it, and a newspaper about it. It was a long article about being on a whaling boat at sea. But he was actually the same captain who years later, or was it years before, seized the HMS Trent during the American Civil War. He was a Union captain who seized the Kent, took several Confederate dignitaries as well as some British dignitaries off the ship, violated British neutrality in the eyes of Britain, and nearly started a war between the northern United States and Britain during the middle of the Civil War. But interestingly enough, he wrote that letter to a newspaper about whaling, and it largely is what inspired the novel Moby Dick, or it was a big piece to inspiring Herman Melville to write the book Moby Dick. All right, everybody, that's going to do it here for episode number 6 of my look at Nantucket, a new strategy game which is coming up, looking at the world of whaling in the 19th century. In this last video, we successfully rescued the individual left on the Rachel, the ship which rescued our character, Ishmael, from Moby Dick at the end of the Herman Melville novel Moby Dick. We're now, I guess, on to looking for the captain of the Rachel, who moved on to another vessel, apparently hunting Moby Dick himself. But that will be a time for another episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed part 6, and hope you continue to enjoy the series as this game draws closer to launch. But that'll do it for today. So until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.